guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today, I wanted to present another video clip between Tony and Theo, and they're talking about low self-esteem, or they're talking about the individual internal blueprint that Theo has. And I wanted to share this because I think if you could just watch the video and kind of absorb what they break down and the false premises that Theo thinks about himself, we really can get to the bottom of fixing some of these old stories that we tell ourselves. And the main theme of all this is going to be, what is your emotional home? Let's watch this video and check out what Tony has to say about Theo's emotional home.
Show that have talked about that, you know?
What do you think it is?
I don't know. I feel like I almost feel like there's a disconnect, like it doesn't even land on me. Or I feel like maybe if I feel like I'm proud of myself, like if I actually feel proud of myself, it'll go against some script that I've always had written, or some thing that was always written inside of me. You know, it's like it's almost like it wouldn't, if I wrote on the wall of myself, I'm proud of you, it wouldn't even fucking show up on the wall.
What emotion would you feel if you saw that?
Like what emotion would I feel if I saw what?
I'm proud of myself. Would you go bullshit? Would you be pissed off by it? Would you be annoyed? Would you just
No, I think I feel ashamed of myself for even thinking.
It's interesting. And it produced an emotion in you just now, even when you just thought about it. I saw that flash in your eyes, just a little bit of water, a little bit of fluid.
And one of the things here, Tony mentions it later, in order to get to this place that they're discovering here between Tony and Theo, there has to be a sense of authenticity and genuineness. And that's why Tony was able to provoke a little bit of, a tear in Theo. Many of us have a hard time getting to that place of authenticity and vulnerability. In order to melt away the layers that are kind of protecting that space, let's continue.
But
oh yeah, dude. Fuck, we cry on here every week. Sorry.
it's beautiful.
No, it's okay. But yeah, we don't have any shame about that.
No, you shouldn't. But I'm saying liquid leaving your body in a public place, as long as it's through your eyes, is not a problem.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, huh? Yeah, don't ask.
That's right. But my point is, there's a real anchor for you there. So let me explain it to you. Everybody has what I call an emotional home.
So what Tony means by there's a real anchor there, let me break that down a little. What Tony is telling Theo is there's a real anchor there, meaning there's a lot of life experience, there's a lot of internal dialogue, there's a lot of reinforcement within you that makes that belief real. So real that it's anchored to the core of Theo. That's what Tony means by there's a real anchor there.
Do you ever watch like a place here, and let's say, where the cyclone happens every 2 or 3 years, it wipes out everything, or a tornado comes through?
Oh yeah.
And you see these poor people, all their stuff's all over the ground, and they're picking it up, and you could have a heart of stone not to feel. They rebuild. 2 years again, it happens again. 2 years later, it happens again. Some part of you eventually goes, why don't you move? It's like, why don't you move?
A lot of Vietnam's like that. It floods. New Orleans is like that. It floods.
New Orleans like that. So here's why don't they move? Because it's home. It's what they know. You have an emotional home.
So for many of us, and there's a lot of you out there stuck in really bad situations emotionally, in a bad relationship with yourself, but you won't leave because that's what you know. It's comfortable. Or some of you are in very unhealthy relationships, but you won't leave because that's home. And it's very difficult to walk away from something that's so familiar with you, even though it's absolutely terrible for you. And what they're talking about here is breaking down that analysis to allow yourself to maybe have a new emotional home, a new relationship that's healthy, a new job situation that's better for you. Let's continue.
You have certain emotions that got built up in your youth. I had 4 fathers. I had a mother who was pretty intense. And I had a lot of emotions that came out of that experience. If I didn't reprogram myself, I wouldn't be sitting here with you today, because my emotional home was not good feelings. It's what I was used to. So even though it didn't feel good, you go there because it's what you know.
Yeah.
It's comfortable. So
yeah, it almost felt like I was deserting myself if I felt good about myself.
That's
It's just crazy. I'd almost
and in a way, what Theo is describing, I don't know if you've ever met someone who's in an abusive relationship, even though they are abused in that relationship, they feel guilty about walking away because they're just so attached and so connected with that. It's a whole narrative that they're a part of within that relationship. And that's what Theo is talking about here, about walking away from it. It's kind of abandoning something within him, even though it's not good for him.
I feel like I was leaving. I don't know. Yeah, it's almost like I know those feelings.
Finish that thought. I'm believing what?
Well, it's almost like I feel like I know those feelings of not feeling good about myself so well that I don't want to leave them alone because we always had each other. And it was like, if I leave them, if
Have you ever had a
if I
friend?
leave them, I won't, I don't know. Does that make
Well,
sense though?
Yeah, it does. You won't what?
If I leave them, I'll just be letting them down. And they're not even real, but some part of me inside of me, I can't even access. They're like his brothers.
Right, but they're your home. And by the way,
Yeah, and that's again back to the vulnerability that Theo is engaging in here. It's not that easy to get there. I mean, obviously, as a podcast, he has to be himself, so people, can understand the real Theo. But this is a hard thing that I mentioned earlier. But again, um, leaving something that's very familiar with you, if it doesn't even have to be a bad thing, guys, but especially when it's a bad thing, they're so emotion. A lot of people don't realize like toxic relationships, challenging situations provoke hormones and makes an association with that situation, which makes it even harder to walk away. Let's continue watching.
I really appreciate you being so vulnerable because people watching there, seeing that, allow them to be vulnerable because you're a role model of that. It's because you're funny as shit, but to be able to be that vulnerable is beautiful. But let me just tell you something. Those are not your friends.
Yeah.
And you're not going to abandon those parts of yourself. You're going to find these other parts of yourself that need to be in charge. It's not to say.
Real important thing there, is that we all have inner critics, guys. We all have inner critics. We all have, and I think to a certain degree, we should have a little bit of that. But should they be in charge? And that's what Tony is talking about here. Should those parts of you that don't believe in you, that think you don't deserve more, that think that you're not good enough, should be leading the charge? No, they should be at the table, but they shouldn't be leading your life. They should not be dictating, what you ought to or not to do. So that's what Tony's about to get into here to discuss a little bit more.
You can't have negative emotions or fears or feelings. But the ones that don't support you, you got to break that pattern. And the way you break the pattern first is you start to see, you get a new experience. If I get you an experience where you feel like you actually felt proud of yourself without those feelings, and there was no sense of loss, and I did that with you for days and days, you'll never go back.
Wow.
Because your brain will go, what the F? I'm not going back to that bullshit. Those weren't my friends. It'd be like, it's like having a friend that beats the shit out of you every single day. And it's like I'm letting him down if I don't let him beat the shit out of you. It's like, oh no, I got to be there for him because I got to be there so he can beat the shit out of me all the time. That's pretty much what
It's crazy to hear, dude. You're like, damn, here we go again.
And so then what happens though is the reason you went for the antidepressants is it's so overwhelming that numbing at least feels a little less. I'd rather see you cry and feel the pain even though I want you to feel pain as a brother.
Yeah, no, I'm grateful to feel it. I want it out of my system.
Right.
Yeah.
But the next step for you is drawing a line in the sand of how you really want to feel. So I'll have people in an event write down, I give them like a minute. I go,
And yet another important point here that Tony's making. A lot of times we feel miserable, we feel difficult, we feel like we're let down, like we don't deserve, but we never give ourselves another option to think of something else. Like, okay, maybe you're tired of feeling a certain way, feeling shame, feeling guilty, feeling like you're not good enough. Well, if you're tired of that, if you've gotten to that point in your life where it's like, you know what, I know I need to change my mindset, you have to give yourself another option. You have to give your mind another pathway to think. Now, that's what they're going to discuss here, but real simple. If you want to feel different, what does that look like? Do you want to feel happy? Do you want to feel proud of yourself? What does that look like? Do you want to feel not like you don't belong ever? Well, then you have to create that idea and connect with it in a new way instead of the old habit, the old emotional home that you're so used to.
draw a line down the middle, right down the left side, all the positive emotions you feel in an average week, not once a year, not once a month, The ones you regularly feel, whatever good feelings.
The average emotions in a positive week.
Positive. So what are some ones you feel in a week?
In a week, I feel
At least once a week.
okay. Any emotion?
Positive. Start with the positive.
Positive.
Empowering emotions.
Hopeful.
Okay.
Thankful.
Yeah.
Loving.
Yeah.
And maybe some pride.
Good. And so the pride is sneaking in. Now that's not ego pride. That's pride of like you're growing.
Well, I'm learning about pride. I mean, it's like I said, it's really hard for me to feel proud of myself.
Yes.
You know.
So stop saying that.
Okay.
Because every time you say that, you're rewiring it back into your body over and over.
Another important thing here, when you're going to decide to want something different for yourself, when you're going to decide, hey, you know what, I want to change my life, the old narrative, the old emotional home, the old verbiage is going to come back. It's going to bleed out. In Theo's case, he said, man, I have a hard time telling myself I'm proud of myself. Well, words matter, guys. And these are things you're going to have to start breaking down. Some of you, may start saying like, no, it's because I always pick the bad guys. I always pick the bad girls in relationships. Stop saying that. That's the old emotional home that's telling you that. So, I'm going to cut the video here short, but in summary, create a new emotional home, create new ideas of how to feel and what that's going to look like and those positive emotions, and start speaking in that way, in that new form of thinking. Let's get rid of the old ways of thinking. Let's get rid of the old emotional home. Let's get rid of the old statements that we don't want to be true anymore. Anyway, if you enjoyed the content, click like and subscribe to the channel. I really thank you for stopping by. And remember, people don't have ideas, ideas have people.